What's up guys, this is Wim for the Melodic Techno Academy, and in this video we will recreate one of the most epic melodic techno breaks ever. And guys, make sure to watch this video until the very end, because we have some very interesting sound design techniques like pitch modulation and using distortion in a very interesting way. And on top of that, I'm gonna show you a very advanced production technique where we're gonna use multiple synth layers to create harmonies for those big, beautiful melodic techno breaks. And by the way, in this tutorial we're gonna recreate every single sound here in Serum. If you wanna see more tutorials where I'm gonna use Serum, please let me know in the comments. But let's get started with the first lead sound. So first in the break we only have this vocal playing here, and then we have this super distorted lead sound coming in slightly. And you can already hear there's a lot of movement in it, but it's actually very easy to recreate. So I'm just gonna duplicate this and delete this all. We're gonna load up a fresh Serum. So first of all, we wanna use some more unison voices here, and we're gonna turn this up to about 3 or 4 voices. This is a little bit too much detune, so we can turn this down. But you can already hear that this detune here is adding some really nice movement, which is happening because we have 3 different oscillators here, and this detune here is creating this kind of phasing in between them. So here, no movement. And this almost sounds like a LFO, which is on the filter or something, but we're gonna make use of this movement which is already in here. Later I'm gonna emphasize it in the FX section, but let's keep working on this basic sound here first. We can also apply a second oscillator, and we could also play around with some different modes here. Maybe the MCB could work. And then we can also apply a little bit of filtering, just a very slight filtering here on the high frequencies. We don't really need much because we're going to apply some additional filtering later in the FX section. And then we can also shape the envelope here, just a very, very slight decaying envelope, about 3 to 4 seconds, and just to sustain, we don't need too much. And then we can apply it already here on the filter. And in the original you can definitely hear that there is some detuning happening on the oscillators, and it sounds like a LFO movement, and this is happening sometimes with analog synthesizers. They are shifting very slightly in pitch, but we can also recreate this here by using a LFO and putting it on the fine tuning, and then we just want to have it between 10 to 20. We get this very slight pitch shift, and we can even make this a bit more complex and moving by adding this second LFO here. And in this one we can just kind of make a different rate, and we could also try to use some more complex sounding stuff here, like this one for example. And we can also apply this on the second one, and maybe this time we can have it negative, so they're detuning to each other. So this already sounds way more interesting, but definitely not so close to the original, because we're gonna get there by really applying a lot of distortion. We can turn this up pretty much all the way here. And of course we can't get 100% close to the original because they might be using a specific kind of distortion unit, but we can definitely play around with some different ones here. For me this one seemed to work the best. And what we could also do is add a filter here before the sound is actually getting distorted, and we can definitely emphasize some frequencies in this range here. So we're getting rid of some higher frequencies here, and also in the original we can hear that we have some emphasis here around this area, and we could even add a filter afterwards to filter out some of the higher frequencies. Now we can make use of the second envelope here again and kind of just have a little slight filter movement around here. And then we can also get rid of those lower frequencies that are left in here with a very basic equalizer, and also definitely boost a little bit more of those higher frequencies. And afterwards we can also add a slight reverb here. And this is already the basic sound. You can see what I did here is just add a little bit of redux, which is just adding this very, very slight distorted movement. And then I also added some of my bigger hall reverb here, which I always have my send effects over here to create a little bit more spacey feeling in here. And then we just have those very slight automations which are fading the synth in here in the track until the main part of the break here is starting. And you can already see there's a second layer of this lead sound here coming in. And what you can probably also see already that we have pretty much the same melody here, only with this tiny variation here. And you can see this in the MIDI here, we're in the A minor scale. And we have those two notes grayed out here in the first part of the synth, which is still playing here when the second lead sound is coming in. But it's keeping the same melody, which is just a really nice melody, which is going down from C4 to C3 here. So always the most energetic part here is when the new bar is starting, and then later on we're going down with the energy until the next one is starting again. So really nice technique here. And then as I said, in the second lead sound, we're just having this very tiny variation, but it's already making a huge difference. So let's hear those two lead sounds together. So you can already see when we're taking this away, we're losing the higher frequencies, and the second lead sound is also very easy to recreate. I just duplicated the first one that we created here, and then we can just paste this melody here over and also delete this one. We also don't need the redux effect in here, and we can add a little bit more of those lower frequencies in here. And this time we don't need so much distorted movement, so we can also get rid of some of those oscillators, and we can turn the unison up to about 9, and this one is smoothing our sound out a little bit. And first of all, I want to get rid of some of that distortion by choosing a different mode here, and we can also turn the filter off. This is just applying a little bit of a slighter distortion here. And now we can really make use of the second envelope that we already created here by really turning down the sustain here all the way. And also we can apply a little bit more on this filter here, and also definitely quite a lot more on this one. And if you listen very closely to the track, we see something very interesting, which is a very slight pitch bend automation. And you can do this by choosing the pitch bend over here. So we're taking this note here, and at the very end, we are moving it down in pitch. And you can just draw in this very simple automation here. I hope you could hear that we have this nice pitch automation, and this one we can duplicate 3 times. At the very end we don't need it, and in the full track this is actually quite hard to hear, but it's really those tiny details that take your track to the next level. So let's listen to this in the track. So a really nice small addition here, and now you can already hear this very nice sub bass coming in, and the sound itself is actually quite simple and it's very easy to recreate. The interesting thing is happening here in the MIDI, but let's have a look first how we created the sound. So we're just having a very basic saw wave here, which is pitched down by 1 octave, and then we just have a 18 dB per octave filter, and that's pretty much it. The only thing that is interesting here is that we're applying the unison also on the bass, which is quite uncommon, but you can see without it, it sounds like a very basic saw patch. And now we're gonna apply 4 voices of unison with a little bit of detune, and they really create this nice and big stereo bass. And and this one is spreading quite far out in the stereo field. Usually you don't want to have it at 100% width because this can get really tiring for your ears if you have too much stereo width in your bass, but we can definitely use quite a bit, and at about 40% this is still quite stereo and it sounds really nice in the track. But as I said, the interesting thing is happening here in the MIDI, even though the melody itself is not really that complex. And as I said, we are in the A minor scale here. So we are starting with the root note, which is always a good idea. Then we are going down to G, then to D. And then we are actually going up to F, and you can already see this is the opposite movement that we are doing here to the lead sound. So what most beginner producers would probably do is just to go to one of their main synth layers and just copy this over and kind of pitch this down to a bass frequency here. And while this might sound alright, I want you to really listen closely this time in the full track, as it's really creating a completely different and uninteresting atmosphere here. It really doesn't have this emotional and interesting impact here. So let's move this back to the original melody. And now we can take those two sounds here and compare them to each other. You can already see this is a chord structure that we created here because the notes are different in every single hit. It's a bit hard to see actually, and for that reason I created this pad sound here where we really put it in the same octave range, and now you can really nicely see and hear the chord structure that is going on in the track. So in the original they're really using the bass line and the main lead sound to create some harmonies in the breaks, and that makes up this really nice emotional interesting vibe. And the pad sound here is actually very easy to create. We just used 16 voices of unison to make it really nice and smooth and also detuned, and then we just added again this kind of pitch movement here on the fine tuning, which is quite important, and we just have some basic delay and reverb here going on. And I actually used this also earlier in the break to kind of fill up the atmosphere, but I'm not 100% sure if this is also in the original, but it's filling up the track here very nicely. And by the way, if you want to grab this template here, including all the individual presets here, the link for that is in the description for my Patreons. But let's go on here. Afterwards, we just have this vocal sample here, which I sampled from the original. And this is also the same melody here copied from the main lead sound. And it's just chopped up to offbeat notes. And it's also a really nice element in the track. And afterwards, to create some more energy in the track, we have two different noise sounds here, which are also created in Serum. And those are also very, very simple. We just have a simple noise here, and we have a super long decay time here of 14 seconds and just some very, very slight filtering. And that's basically it. So this noise sound here is coming in very, very strongly over here and then very, very slightly decaying until the bar is ending. And right over here is actually already the next noise sound starting, but this one is more of an up filter, which is guiding us out of the break here. And this other noise sound, pretty much the same actually. This time we just took the sustain here all the way up and we just added a little bit of attack, but it's not so important because we're using the filter this time here to create some custom movement and create this kind of uprising filter, where at the end we also added the echo delay here, which is just filtered strongly, and it's really nice to kind of fade out those sounds here. Yeah, and afterwards we just have this vocal sample here that I also got from the original. and vocals are also very important to create some more emotional content in your track. And yeah guys, this is basically the whole structure of this break, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know by dropping a like and also a comment down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.